Okay, wait a minute. Let me change you
to become a host or?
Yeah, I gotta change you to
Okay.
promote to panelist. There you go. See if you can do it now.
Okay, I see. Okay. I think can you see me?
I can see your picture,
Okay.
but I can't see your.
Okay, it says that the host has disabled screen sharing.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to do that right now.
Okay.
Chat cancel. Screen. Screen recording. Are you pressing share content?
Share screen.
Hold on. Share screen. Okay. Let's do it now.
Okay, now try again.
Yep.
There we go. Okay.
Perfect.
So there we go. This is mine. Okay, can you guys hear it? I mean, see it?
Yeah.
Okay, is it full screen or section?
Yeah, it's nice. Very nice.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so I'm ready. So let me know when you guys are ready.
We're ready.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so today I'm going to show you a little bit more like the framework of what STEAM and STEM is about, so we can pretty much have like a basis understanding of what it is and like what exactly the functionality in the economy STEAM has and why it's so important for us to understand the value of this education and how as a parent can we support this at home. So the first thing is STEM education. Why do you guys think it is important? Can one of you guys give me an answer? I mean, it doesn't have to be related to specifically STEAM, but why do you think it's important? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Why do we think STEAM is importante? Is that
exactly? Yep.
Well, STEAM is importante because I mean, the way I feel about it is the world is turning more into technology and the environment where the science, people have to know science and, the environment changing. And then, math is critical in everything. Everything you do in life deals with math.
Right.
And then the arts is just, the creativeness of people creating inventions or people creating different outlooks in their lives and in planning. So I mean, it's all needed. I mean, it's all something that I see for the future.
Right. Yes. And you're pointing something very important about technology becoming a predominant element in pretty much all the cultures or most of the cultures around the world. And one of the things is like you probably have seen this by your own experience or observations that the generation that is it has the adaptation of technology, there is the tendency to become a little bit disconnected from other individuals because we are thinking of technology as the main way of communication. So we are more like isolated in one way or another. And so this idea of the STEAM education, it has that in consideration, and what it does is actually it promotes collaborative work. So, and like you mentioned, STEAM is about science, math, technology, and engineering all together And later on, the A came into playing, so it's art, because obviously art was, it's a very necessary element in the human condition for existence and for thinking.
Mhm.
And STEAM integrates science, technology, engineering, and mathematics all in one single platform to learn and to teach. And it is mostly based on scientific principles of teaching, learning, and developing. And it includes engineering as a design element for, for whatever we're working on as an STEAM. And lately it seems like engineering, it's kind of like the the main, like the glue that puts all this together, because engineering seems to be taking part, like if you are an engineer, you need to have understanding of math, you need to have an understanding of science and technology. And that's where everything they start realizing it, that engineering wasn't really necessary, the most ideal glue to glue all this together. So they incorporated art into the STEAM. And one of the things about STEAM is the education that you are going to get with a STEAM. It's pretty much a relevant education. What that means, it means that STEAM is in a constant update of what is going to be needed now and a little bit about the future. So we can consider STEAM some sort of like a base model of education that is going to give the knowledge to whoever is taking STEAM in consideration for the future or for the immediate future that we are facing. And one of the greatest things about STEAM education is it has like very minimalistic set of understanding the basis of STEAM and how STEAM is considered STEAM. And it's very understandable because it doesn't have all this complexity for to be considered STEAM education. It's quite simple. Like for example, one of the things that you learn from STEAM is the critical thinking. So you basically have this kind of like the engineering mind where you can see a problem, you can rationalize the problem, and start thinking of a solution to the problem. And the more that we put in practice this model of thinking, the more that we see the benefits, not just in education, but pretty much in everyday life. Because if we have problems, we have a tendency to see the problem only as the problem and not think about the solution, not consider the problem as a potential of a solution. And so problem solving, it's very fundamental into STEAM education, because the whole idea is like Millie mentioned, it's about to innovate and to create new ideas and new solutions for problems that we have that perhaps sometimes it seems like we have this problem for like centuries, and only somebody has the idea and the solution comes along. And it seems like magic, but in reality, it's a whole process where a lot of ideas are put into test, and some do work, some don't. And it just happened that this brilliant idea, it worked because it was well thought. So the other element, the other skill that you get through STEAM, it's communication. Like I mentioned, the idea of technology making individuals lonely. It is true, but it's not always true, because the idea of STEAM is to encourage communication among individuals. Like if you have a problem, obviously if you have more than one person thinking about this problem, the solution is going to be fast and better. And for that, you need to communicate to this other person. You need to understand how to tell this other person the problem, so this person can help you to find a solution to this problem or work in collaboration with you and finding solutions to problems. Enhanced collaboration seems to be another element into STEAM education. The idea that you work alone, that you fix everything alone, that you have to figure out alone, it is left behind by more social aspects like communication and collaboration. And and then we have the last set of skills, which are very important, which is creativity and innovation. Like right now in the working environment, like for example, on this pandemic, when it began 3 months ago, nobody had any idea like how it's going to be, how we're going to communicate, how we're going to work from home. So we have to find solutions to those problems pretty quickly, pretty much in a matter of hours or days, but we couldn't spend a lot of time thinking about, okay, so we need to find a solution how we're gonna work from home. We have to find a solution and take it and start working on it and find solutions to the problems as we go. And at this point, it seems like working from home, it's it is a solid concept, and you probably read in the news that there are some companies that are actually considering the fact that you can either work from home or come to the headquarters or to the office, and it's pretty much up to you. So for them, the value of working from home and the benefits of working from home, it's very obvious. And the only reason that we arrived to that conclusion, it's because we are creative and we were able to innovate our whole situation pretty much on demand. And one of the things that it is very important about STEAM is that it has to be very rigorous and relevant. It means that it is a little bit contradictory when you say something that is rigorous and relevant, because we have the idea that if it is rigorous, it has to be like that for 100 years and cannot change because it works. But when it's relevant, it means that it has to be rigorous, but it has to be flexible. It doesn't really, it has to constantly evolve with the society that we live. So STEAM seems to be an education model that is designed to survive so many cultural and educational formats and continue in adapting to whatever the needs for the future are. And so we come to the question, like, what exactly is STEAM? Like you probably have made that question yourself. Like, okay, so my teacher says they are doing STEAM, but the other teacher says not STEAM. So what exactly is STEAM? How can we as parents really have our own understanding of STEAM and make a call? Okay, so this is STEAM or this is not STEAM. And you can see on this slide what it really defines STEAM in a very short format. Like it is STEAM, it's student-centered, but it means that all the knowledge that the school develops or teaches is about the benefit of the student, like how the student can benefit mentally and economically from what is learning in the school. And it's about curiosity. It's about the second one. It's inquiry based. It means it's about to to encourage curiosity in the student. So it's not about like 2 plus 2 equals 4. That's what the teacher said, and that's it, and that's going to stay that forever. It's about like how you can make a student think about, okay, so why is 2 plus 2 equals 4 when 1 plus 3 equals 4? So you give this idea or start thinking about like why, and and then it usually well, not usually, it is the integration of science, technology, engineering, math, and art. So having a project incorporates and it's based in this incorporation is what really makes us team. And then, like Millie said, it's about innovation. it's about how can we do something that is completely different or something that needs a solution that we can think about it and do it. And how to that involves solving a problem. We can think about this problem in a way that is going to have an outcome, either it's a solution or not a solution, but we understand the whole process, and that's why critical thinking comes along, and the collaboration again. So, like I mentioned in the past, we need to collaborate with other individuals to really expand our knowledge and our experiences. Because being alone, yes, it is good sometimes to be alone, but we need to have a collaborative experience, shared experience with others. And again, it goes back about like why is rigorous relevant and it is authentic learning. Well, in that case, it's considered authentic learning because it's about the student, what the student is going to learn, how it's going to be curious, and how it's going to approach the problems or the topic and really learn from it. And then we have on the other side of the slide what is not STEAM. It is not teacher-centered. What it means is whatever the teacher decides to teach that day or the whole year, it is not about that. It is about what is going to be relevant, what is needed, what is actually going to be considered relevant education nowadays. It is not just about robotics. Like you probably have seen that many places they are interesting. They are mostly it has a tendency to consider robotics as the final and only STEAM format because they encourage everything that STEAM has. And robotics seems to be like there is a robotic team almost pretty much in every high school, or the idea of a robotic team or something about robotics. So it's not just only about robotics. Robotics is cool. Yes, it is cool, but it's not about that. Um, and the subjects are not in isolation. What that means, it's the, like, for example, if we study about sociology, about, let's say, culture, and we only think about that culture as a unique and isolated culture, and go in depth into that with that format without thinking like they probably have commerce with other cultures. They probably have an exchange of goods and currency. They exchange ideas and they influence each other. So it's about like how can we find more information from a way to teach and to learn, incorporating science, technology, engineering, and math. And it's very unlikely that whatever you do, this set of science, technology, engineering, math, and art cannot be applied. There are a few exceptions, but it's not always the case. And then the other thing is that STEM is not just only for like an elite set of students that if you have a group of A plus students, they are going to be dedicated to learn STEM. No, that's not it. STEM is very democratic in the way that it's constructed and the way that is meant to educate the individual is about to spread the knowledge. And it doesn't matter like what the person is or how much knowledge the person has. The whole idea is for them to understand um, how to think as an STEAM-based education. And that leads to the last one, which is the STEAM is not only dedicated to students that want to do engineering, technology, or math. That's not the case. I mean, STEAM can be applied to pretty much everything. So now we know a little bit about what STEAM is, and then we have this idea like, okay, so why is STEAM so important nowadays? Why wasn't important in the 60s or in the 40s or last century. So why today? Do you guys can give me an answer? Why do you think it is important today? Who wants to give me a guess?
Well, I think that, good morning. My name is Deborah Bigelow. I think with the way that the world is changing and that it's evolving, that the things that we used to do in the 60s and the 70s, were more factory based,
Mm-hmm.
and now that, we're getting into more, things are evolving more into the technology wave. I think that's why it's more important because we have to keep up with the times. Otherwise,
Yeah.
we'll be left in the dark ages.
Yes, right. So that's why it's been relevant, but also there is, like, for example, one of the things why STEM is also only become very important, let's say from a difference from the 1960s, 70s to even to the 1990s to today, it's because based on all this progress that we are doing and all these global changes that we are doing, like the global economy, the global cultures. So we come to the point where we are seeing that the way that we are training the students to become a professional, a doctor, an engineer, any other profession, is it has to evolve. It has to be changed in order for the individual to have or continue doing what it does in the future. Like for example, if you take let's say an engineer, they study, it was graduated, let's say like 20 years ago,
Hmm.
and it goes out and wanted to find a job. It has to know computing. It has to know technology because that's how things are made today. And so this is like what STEM is about. STEM is about like not just the process of formation, but also like how can this be once a person goes through the STEM education and gets out into the labor world, like how can this person keep continue updating themselves and without reinventing the wheel or retaking everything from scratch. So it's about giving the individual the tools for for evolving, for staying up to date. And I think that's one of the main reasons why STEAM is so important, not just in education, but for culture in general. And so the next thing is it comes into this graphic, and it's about like how we can think about STEAM. Like this is more likely how a teacher looks at STEAM, the way that it's going to be organized for them mentally. But so they have a little more complex understanding of how they develop their STEAM ideas and curriculums. But for us as a parents, I think that we need to understand the real basics of it, like have the fundamentals down, and then we can have conversations with educators about STEAM in a way that we are capable to understand and to perhaps give a feedback about what we think and what changes could be implemented.
Yeah.
So one of the things is how we know how can we understand in STEAM homework? Let's say your kid come home and says, listen, we are doing STEAM at school, but we have homework. Okay, so how can we support them into this process? And how can we understand this different way of teaching and different way of doing homework and different way of working with students? So, like I mentioned before, it is very rigorous, but it doesn't really mean that it has to be the final word of it. It is standard based. It means that whatever the kid in New York is learning on fifth grade, the same is going to be learning in California in fifth grade. So there is standardization of the teaching. It is very, very, most of the time it's project based, something that I really love in life, because I think I personally, I learn more when I do with my hands or when I'm involved working in the project itself, because when you do something in real life, you start seeing problems and finding solutions, and you understand that you need to get different kind of knowledge or another knowledge to find a solution to the problem that you're looking for. So project-based, it is fantastic. It is collaborative. It means that it's encouraged to work with other persons. In this case, would be like you and your kids can be working together in this project and approach in a way that you are not just hovering over the student and seeing that it does everything that the teacher told them to, but you can actually get involved into the project itself and start helping to rationalize the problem and how to find a solution. So that's something that is fantastic. And it's about like, it can be boiled down to problem solving. Like it's about how find the right tools and solutions to whatever problem it is. And by a problem, usually the way that I refer to a problem, I refer no as something that it could be annoying or something that is stopping us from something, but every single thing that you need to find a solution, or you need to go through it, or it has, or it's like in something that stops us is considered a problem, and it doesn't have that negative connotation in the STEAM. It is more like, okay, it's a challenge. It's something that we have to find a solution to that challenge, and it's about the real world. It's about like how science works and how science explains the world that we live, and it takes that approach. So here's one example of just one simple example of a project that you can that we can see and break down and see all the elements of STEAM into this little cardboard house. Like if you just made this with your kid, okay, so that's cool, it's great. We just did recycling and we use tape to put the whole together, and we use some geometrical analysis to make the whole house in one single piece of cardboard that was a different shape. We just remove some material and make it fit into this house. That's great. But we can go beyond that. Like we can do a little bit of science into it. Like for example, the first thing that we have in this is like science, and it says heat transfer, okay, which is paper transfer heat. Okay, so we can say, okay, so this, how is it possible that paper can transfer heat, and how much heat can transfer? How can we measure it? And so we can go very scientific into this project. And if you pay attention to this, it's not about the house, but it's about the qualities of the cardboard. That the question is like, it's a heat transfer. Like how is possible for cardboard to transfer heat very fast and efficiently? And then we go to the second one, which is technology. So we can use a thermometer or a radiometer or software to measure the size of paper that we use. We can just make a model, a three-dimensional model of it, and kind of like use technology for making models and see if we can do some sort of like emulation and how much temperature and how much material it has. And again, it goes back to science. So the next one will be engineering, like how we came up with this process, like how we were able to think about the designing of this house with a single piece of paper or cardboard and have the minimum amount of waste, and how we are going to put it together in a way that is still easy to put together and it's still easy to assemble using tape or any other material. And then we come along with my next favorite topic, which is math. Like we have to understand like about measurements, quantities, like how big was the paper, how much we need to cut, what's going to be the angle of the triangles, and are we going to be able to replicate this with a smaller amount of cardboard or in a bigger size. So a lot of information regarding numbers comes along, which is considered as mathematics, which mathematics is a perfect tool in engineering. And as we know, engineering, it's one of the favorite tools for technology. And technology needs science to really be made. And in this case, art is not listed because by the time this slide was made, art was still in the process of being considered. So, and then we come like, how are we creative to find those solutions? Like how to use less paper, or how we already thought about using cardboard, and how we came up with the solution of using tape. Being creative, the main element of human creativity, of being human, it's applied into this project. So as you can see, the simple project has a lot of depth, and it's just how we can discover that process of how can we make a simple cardboard in something that it has so much potential to study, to learn, and to grow from it, and it's using creativity. And then we have another example, which is a little bit more scientific, and like getting DNA from strawberry. And you can see you can use engineering, and you can get a kit to get all the extract the DNA. You can do a math about that extraction and how much material do you have, what's the size of the strawberry and volumes and things like that. So the idea of this slide is to show you that going from a very simple project to a more complex project, it is basically the same. It is just how you approach the problem, how you approach the project, and how you can get a lot of information and understand a lot from simplicity. And then we go again to the same idea, like more in depth, like if you want to go into the science aspect of it, like the chemical composition of the strawberry versus the banana, and how much water it has compared to an orange. So you can just think about questions that you can they like to answer, and just a very simple experiment. And then it goes into the technology, like how, if we have a DNA extraction kit, how was that made? How is it simple? It only works with like Q-tip that has special chemicals, and you just dip in and gives you a color, and then from that color you can basically kind of like have a chart and figure it out, like the source of DNA and things like that. So it makes a lot of questions, like how is that possible to such a thing exist today and it couldn't exist, let's say, 40 years ago? And so that's for this section of the slides. And if you guys have any questions before I go to the other section, this is a good time.
I just got one question. I
Sure.
think you mentioned that the teaching, the standard base is across the board, meaning that what's ever taught, let's say here in California, I think you referenced it too, would be the same standard teaching here in Connecticut. Was I right in thinking that?
Yes, yes. The whole idea is for it to be it's standardized. So whatever you are going to the content of the school, like I say in California, will be pretty much the same of the content of school in Connecticut. It doesn't mean that it's going to be specifically the same,
Yes,
but the whole idea is that the way you're going to teach is going to be more democratic.
basically. Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure. Uh, so, and then I'm gonna,
I have a question.
sure.
Do you think sometime down the line this is going to be mandatory inside the school system for our children?
Well, that's actually a very good question. And I think I don't know if it's going to be mandatory, but I think it's going to be very predominant because, again, like if you close your eyes and you think about how the future is going to be, and now based on what I just showed you in the slides with the STEAM, what do you think the answer is? So it seems like currently the society that we're living, it is
I
the,
didn't mean mandatory because it seems like the only time I hear about STEM is when these kids is in magnet schools. I don't really
Mhm.
hear about a lot of STEM inside my Hartford public school. We got a little sample of it, girls technology, but we don't have the full dose like how you explaining it.
Right, right. So again, this is about like one of the things about STEAM is about being the democratization of learning. Democratization, it means that learning it's going to be more equal opportunities for um, for the students and uh, and if you look at the future, like for example, in where a place that is starting to think about the future, like okay, so if we want to have our citizens or residents in this state in 20 years, and what's going to be the skills that they're going to need to have. Obviously, typewriting machine, it wouldn't be a good idea because I don't think there's going to be typewritings in 20 years predominating the whole industries. It's going to be about like how, what is going to be the needs for the specific economy to flourish and to maintain itself. So, and that's why STEAM seems to be like the ideal educational format for for that. But and yes, STEAM is it's not that old if you compare it to other educational models, and but it seems to be like a framework that has a lot of potential, and it is actually doable. It means they can be implemented into the school system, and and the reason is because it really is kind of like a unification of the school itself, like rather than have a separation of science, art, and technology, everything can be holistic. I mean, it's like it can be seen as a whole unit that can benefit education. So um, perhaps right now you don't see STEAM being promoted in most of the schools or being taught in most of the schools, but it doesn't really mean that that could be the case in 5 years because sometimes things take a little time to get into it. And you mentioned Girls for Technology, and I'm very familiar with Girls for Technology. I actually have done workshops with them, and that's one of the things that I do. It's about like how to do creative technologies uh, with students and how to teach them how to think different in the technology. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Sure. Any other question?
Balam, thank you very much. This was a great training.
Oh, excellent. Absolutely. Um, I think, do I have time for the last set of slides?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so, and then the last one is about the 21st century skills, like what is it, what they are, and what's so important, and why. Okay, so we go back again to about critical thinking, how we can, it's not just for kids, it's for basically for anybody that wants to understand the skills that are very important today. I think that are essential to know. Critical thinking, thinking about a problem in a way that is structured. If you have a problem, for example, that you need to go and open a door, that would be a problem. How would you do it? How would you think about it? Like, what would be the best way to do it? So we can think about like in this way, in a way that is critical. Okay, so I need to stand up from the chair. I need to walk 20 steps forward, and then I need to turn right, and then walk 5 steps, and then grab the handle, push it down, or twist, or whatever the motion is, and then pull or push the door. That's critical thinking because we're thinking about facts. We're using scientific models to understand and to visualize the process that we're going to do to find a solution to the problem or how to think the problem. So it's about being critical. It's critical. It doesn't really mean that we have to criticize or things like that. It's no, it's not. It's about like how we can use the way that we think using facts, scientific facts. And then creativity. Creativity is always amazing because with creativity, we can find solutions to problems that are unique, solutions that are efficient, that are low cost, and we can replicate this using creativity again. Collaboration, again, the more that you collaborate, the better the solution or the idea is going to be because there is another set of mind, another experience, another individual with a different experience that comes along and it's going to share that with you in whatever you are thinking or learning. So collaboration is very, very, very important as a human being. And then comes information literacy, which is basically get knowledge from books, from others that have shared their experience in a way like a book, or they have technical knowledge, and it doesn't have to be a book, but it can be like online. And so get information from other individuals. Media literacy, which is basically like how can we understand what information that I'm seeing, it is authentic. Like for example, nowadays there is the terminology of fake news, even though it's the news, it's called a fake. So like, how can we discern or really make a difference between realistic information and something that is not realistic, something that is made because it has an intention behind. So we need to be logical about it, and again goes back to critical thinking. To understand about technology, and this is a very important thing because when we think about technology, we think about from computers, iPads, telephones, pretty much anything that runs with power, and it has an interface, and you can push buttons and play games and things like that. But no, that is digital technologies. It is a shape or form of technology. Technology, it's like, for example, like one of the first technologies that as humans that we developed and created was fire. We were able to create fire by ourselves. And because we were able to invent or create or discover fire by ourselves, we were able to live in places, move from one place to another and cook our food. And because we were able to cook, we start thinking about like how to plant, how to have crops of food. So we were into farming, and that made us stay in one place. So we started gathering together and we started making like villages and towns, and that grow into cities, and that grow into countries, and so forth and so on. So the impact of a technology, as insignificant as we can probably see it as fire, it has a tremendous impact in society. Like fire, like if we think about fire, fire was probably one of the greatest things. The other the other technology that we have also invented that has so much impact, we probably are using it right now, is a chair. Like somebody had the idea of a chair. Like probably before chairs, we used to sit on the floor or any uncomfortable places, but somebody had the idea of a chair and started figuring out how to put together a chair. And from there, the idea of being comfortable and that you can travel longer distance, like if you want to travel in train, like 4 days, you just go on a bus and sit in the chair and you're comfortable. You're able to do it because you can rest. You don't have to be standing and or being uncomfortable, and by consequence, no considering traveling. So so many ways how technology has really impact our lives. And it's not just about like when we think about technology, about the computers and things like that, but it's beyond that. It's whatever makes our life more enjoyable. That's why we create technology. And again, it's something that, and the next thing is about something that I really enjoy about being flexible. Flexible in what you do, flexible in life, flexible in your thinking. Because if you always think the apples are red, what happens one day that you walk out to the supermarket and you see the apples are green? It really, it changes everything that your conception of an apple. You may not even think it's an apple, but if you're flexible in thinking the apples are red, green, yellow, and whatever other shape or color comes along in different parts of the world, you're more likely to enjoy that apple. And then about leadership. And again, this is leadership is a pretty broad term because this, in this case, it means that it's not about taking the role of a leader, but it's about like how can you be a leader in innovation? Like how can you innovate first? How can you have ideas and go ahead and do them? So it's a leadership. Perhaps sometimes we are like unique leaders in pretty much a lot of things, but we are taking the initiative to do it. So that's a leadership skill. And again, it goes back to being to the initiative, or like, okay, I have this idea, but how good is that idea if you don't do it? How good is that idea if it's going to stay in your brain for the rest of your life? You have that idea, you have to put it in practice to even for yourself to see if that idea that you had actually works or it doesn't work or if it needs a redefinition. And when you do that, it goes to being productive, productivity. Productivity in this case means to put the whole sense into an action, to have an action on these ideas. And then the social skills, which is quite interesting when you if you get a chance to see what's the social skills of, let's say, now compared to the Victorian era, compared to the Middle Ages, it's a different set of skills that are in place. So when we think about social skills, we always think about a unique and always the same social skills, but we don't consider them like they evolve, that they need to change. So we always have to be updating our social skills constantly and adapting them to whatever is needed for what we need to do. So this slide is about a little bit more into depth to what I already talked to you guys in the previous slides, and it's about critical thinking, being creative, in collaborations, and usually this set it's in communication, and then we go again a little bit more in depth, like how you need to know about the technology and what is good and the life skills. And this is a little more in information about the what I mentioned to you in the beginning of the slides about the importance of creative thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. But in short, we already discussed that in previous slides. And the literacy skills, which is about like how can you differentiate, how can you know where to get all this information. Life skills, which they are constantly changing. So whatever you know today, it doesn't mean that it's going to be the same life skills tomorrow or they were in the past, because we are always changing. And so that's why there is a demand on the 21st century skills, because there is something that we need the students when they go out to the working world. These are the skills that they need to have in order to be successful in whatever they do as an entrepreneur, as a worker, as a pretty much anything that you do in life. And so if you guys have any questions about it, it's a good time. Hello?
We're here.
Okay. Okay, so that was the last slide, and I think we currently have time to answer one question.
No questions for me.
Okay. Okay, so so this is it for today, guys. But for the next session, I have one small homework. If you guys can do a little bit of research about innovation and how innovation can affect your life. And then we can tell me next week, and I want to hear about it. I'm going to talk about innovation and the value of innovation.
Okay. So our assignment is to research how does innovation affect our life.
Mm-hmm. And what is innovation?
Okay.
That sounds good. We got work to do.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll get that out to, in case anyone forgets, I'll put it in the email.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you so
Balam,
much.
thank you so much again.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much, and see you
And
next
thank
week.
you everyone for participating.
Absolutely. Okay. Bye-bye. Have a nice day.
Okay. Millie, so it's next Wednesday, Millie? Hello. Hello.
They
Hello.
left. Bye.
Yeah, next
No.
Wednesday, same time.
What's next Wednesday's date?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Wait, yeah, hold on. Let me look it up real quick. Let me look it
Send
up.
it to the ladies.
Yeah.
Balam knows. Balam already knows.
Okay, I'll send it out to the ladies. Next Wednesday would be September 2nd.